Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, hi, remember me? I sure hope so. Here I am. Sorry, that was an inadvertent week off. And believe me, I wish I didn't have to have taken it. I don't know how good the picture is here, and if you're looking at me, you might see that I'm wearing a brace on my arm, a sling. That's what it's called, right? A sling. And I'm still showing, although this looks so much better, pretty good black eye. So, I don't even know where to start, guys. If you're curious, I guess I should tell you what happened to me. I sustained some pretty nasty injuries in the most innocuous, maddening of ways. This happened last Friday, not this, 10 days ago on Friday. And I had finished 4802 on WQED, and I left the studio there at 8 o'clock when the show ended and proceeded on to my next stop, which was a party at a art gallery celebrating the gallery's 40th anniversary. And in fact, today in the Post-Gazette, there's a big story about that gallery, its owner, and pictures from the party at Mendelssohn Gallery. So I got there, went in. I'm very good friends of the gallery owner. I saw there were a ton of people in the gallery on the first floor, so I scooted up the stairs to the private residence and found a few other people who felt entitled to do that up there. I was introduced to two very interesting artists who were in the company of the head, now director of the Warhol, Eric Scheiner. He succeeded Tom Sokolowski. And I've never really talked to Eric Scheiner, but he greeted me warmly, and then he sat down on a couch, and I said, well, something. I don't know what I said. I was going over to sit next to him to talk to him. That's all I was doing. I hadn't had a drink. I was stone cold sober, in my right mind. And he's a very tall guy, and his picture is in the paper today with Steve Mendelssohn. They're both smiling. Little did they know. That picture was taken probably about a half hour before I ruined the party. Oh, God. I can't describe what happened. Scheiner was sitting there. I had to sort of maneuver around his very long legs to get to the other side of the couch where I wanted to sit and have a conversation. And in my maneuvering, I inadvertently caught my left foot, hooked it around a very odd table. Everything in Mendelssohn's gallery and home is arty, and this very sort of this rounded glass table. And I hooked, I guess, must have, my left foot around it. And I've fallen before, but I have never fallen like that, where I have no memory of the fall happened so fast. It was that I don't even think I reacted. I don't have any recollection of putting my hands out to break the fall. I just went down like, much to my surprise and much to Eric Scheiner's surprise. By the way, I've called my black eye Scheiner's Scheiner. It was a beaut for a week. It's really healing really well now. I felt my head bounce literally off the floor. And I ended up sort of under another guy. Anyway, I heard Eric Shiner say, "Oh my God, are you okay?" So I didn't lose consciousness. And I remember saying, "I don't think so." I couldn't move my arm. I was in agony. I was bleeding. It was ugly. Anyway, by the time everybody, they sort of, I actually told Eric, who was, many people are all thumbs in a situation like that. In fact, I am. But I was clear-headed as the victim. So he kept saying, "Can I help you up? Can I?" No, don't. I said, "I think my arm's broken." No. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I said, "Could you go see if there's a doctor in the house?" Amazingly, there was. And he was, I think, even like an ER kind of a doctor, a trauma doctor. And on top of it, he was gorgeous. His first name was Photius, and his last name was unpronounceable. But he was so wonderful. I still had my jacket on. I hadn't even taken my jacket off. And somehow he, with the help of some other burly gents, sort of pulled me out from under with me yelping in pain. Somehow they got me up. He said, "You've definitely dislocated your shoulder." He said, and the thing is, when they saw me, I guess my face, it was like almost an immediate thing where my entire left side of my face was swollen. I looked a little like that picture of Jordan Miles.
Oh my God.
I really did. Eye completely shut, huge. I mean, it's amazing how fast that happens. That kind of swelling and stuff. And my eye was already, everything was just sort of, you could tell, bleeding everywhere. So, am I boring people with this story? Am I?
No.
Are you sure?
People want to know.
People want to know. Oh my God. So anyway, Photius, the doctor, said, she needs an ambulance. I thought, oh, dear God in heaven, what a way to spend a Friday night. Damn it! Anyway, took a while. Maybe 20 minutes for the ambulance to get there. But I must say, once they were there, the two paramedics, one a woman, one an African-American male with dreadlocks, were incredible. They were gentle, they were competent, they were wonderful. So, anyway, they somehow extricated me. Somehow the stairs to the top floor in this place are so steep and so narrow. It's a very old building. In fact, used to be a brothel. Yes, it used to be a brothel run by, who was that odd character? Help me here. She dressed always as a man. She was short and fat, and she dressed in suits. She was the madam. And her name, I want to say Tex Gill. Will somebody look? I'm not kidding. A great Pittsburgh character, who I imagine is deceased now. Tex Gill. That was one of her houses. Anyway, where was I? Oh, so it was... Do you find her?
Wait, I did.
Okay, Jess found Tex Gill. Do you see a picture of her? She's amazing looking.
Her obituary.
Oh, her obit. Okay. But did it say she was a brothel owner? I mean, it was pretty well known.
Sexually ambivalent rub parlor owner.
They call her a sexually ambivalent rub parlor owner. Tex Dante Gill, right?
Dante Tex Gill.
Dante Tex Gill.
Wow.
And great character. Anyway, so yeah, that's where Mendelssohn Gallery is now, was the brothel. So there was no way to get a stretcher up the steep steps and narrow steps. And so they They strapped me. They strapped me, legs, head, this, that, blah, 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 to some kind of a chair. And then sort of like, it was masterful. I mean, they sort of slid me down the stairs. And I knew that as we got to the bottom of I was in such pain. The pain was ludicrous. Because I guess my left arm was about 2 inches lower than my right. It was just literally hanging. It was totally out of the socket. It was just hanging. And I obviously couldn't move at all. And any movement, just, was, you saw stars. So, but as I'm enough of a performer, this is so pathetic about my personality, that as I knew that big party was going on, and they knew obviously an ambulance was out front, so as they slid me down the stairs, when we got to the floor with the front door right there and the party going on to my left, and it was my left side that looked like Jordan Miles, I tried to do an exit line. And I sort of turned and I saw some frightened looking people staring back at me. And I said, "Hell of a party." And no one laughed. It was the worst insult of the night. No one laughed. I said, "Hell of a party." It took me so much energy to say "hell of a party," a flourish by the almost mortally wounded woman. And nobody laughed. They just stared like, I think. Oh, God. Anyway, cut to the chase. Ended up at the ambulance insisted, I tried to go to West Penn. I was trying to avoid UPMC. And they said, "No, your head trauma is such that we're going to take you to Presby because it's the main trauma unit in the city, and there'll be a orthopedic guy on there, and we know they'll have them. So whatever." Off we went. I just want to say this about ambulances. Why the hell don't they have shock absorbers? It is okay, so you take an ambulance with no shock absorbers, obviously, and then take Pittsburgh's streets.
Oh, my God.
As they exist right now, right. And the slightest little bump will cause me agony. But we're hit, and what they did is the guy in the back with me said, "No, we're not going to do the siren. We're going to take it really slow because we don't want to jar you." So here's this poor woman driving and trying to avoid jarring me and going slow. And still, every 2 seconds, I'm jarred. So I'm letting out every jar. I'm like, "Ah!" Screaming, "Please help, stop it." Anyway, he finally put the sirens on, and down we went. And the ER I was in for 4 hours. That was a pretty impressive kind of, and we got in just in time because Friday night at Presby ER that's a busy time. Oh. Gunshots coming in and stuff like that. So I made it right before the Friday night rush. I was so lucky. But while I was still lying in the ER being attended to, the gunshot victims started coming in. The cops started coming in. I could hear all that. That was actually rather entertaining and distracting. So anyway, when I heard the scissors, I got upset because they cut my clothes off me.
Oh, no.
All my pretty little clothes that I was wearing on 4802. I'll never see them again. My little kimono, my little red kimono, and they even cut through my bra. They cut everything off. Okay, enough already. So I did spend the night. There was concern about my head. As there often is. I want you to know that my brain has now been scanned, and they said that it appears to be in just fine freaking condition. My head is scanned, and my my shoulder's still killing me, and the black eye is healing, and this is all sort of going away. But you know what? So it's like 10 days later. What's amazing to me is how not quickly I bounced back. And this I don't know. And everybody keeps saying, you have no idea. You were a level 2 trauma. You had a huge trauma to your body. You had blah, 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 blah. The pain alone is exhausting. The this, the blah, blah, blah. But I remember back in the day when I could do something stupid like that and, you know, pretty much bounce back in a day or two. And it's just another sign that I'm old as dirt. So, what else did I have to tell you? I'm not allowed to drive. I don't quite understand that. My poor kid who came home for vacation is chauffeuring me around and getting stuff for me. Everyone was so wonderful to, you know, in helping and stuff and whatever. I don't know. So that's what happened to me, and I've had a rough few days. So I couldn't have done the show last week because I simply didn't have the energy. And I think I turned the corner this weekend. I don't care about the black eye. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care about any of it. And, you know, there's this assumption you can tell when a woman has a black eye and there's an assumption that I got beaten up, which pisses me off. But so Presby had me, and I said to the nurse, I said, make sure Jeffrey Romoff doesn't find out I'm here. I thought I might not get out alive. But, oh, God. Anyway, they were wonderful there, the people. And I must say that when I mentioned Jeffrey Romoff, I could see they don't like him either. Yeah. So, okay, so that's the story. That's where I was. Now, I still have some other things to share with you, none of them good. And in fact, what I'm going to share with you now is the thing in my life that is causing me the most pain. This accident, this fall, and whatever happened with it disappears when I think of this next reality. My sister, Susan's husband is dying. And he, all this last year, Susan has gamely been coming on Tuesdays. And there have been some absences that you might have noted because she had to take Eric to a chemo treatment or to something else. But so he, to call him a brother-in-law doesn't do it. He's my brother in every way. I couldn't love him more. He's one of the most wonderful people I know. And he's a stalwart in the family. And he and Susan have one of those marriages that give marriage a good name. And they form a very special entity. And I know Susan will be struggling for a long, long time to find herself. After this, he is home with hospice care. I was so angry about this because it makes me useless. And Susan told me I could tell you this because she will obviously not be doing the show for who knows, I don't know. Long time. So keep her in your prayers, and and Eric and their family. And the other thing that makes it so damn hard is that Susan and Eric are expecting their first grandchild in 3 weeks. And when I was in Chicago just a few weeks ago, I had gone for a baby shower, and Eric had come, Susan and Eric had come, and I could tell he was not doing great. But I haven't, right after that, he just, so I'm really, this is a bad, bad, bad month so far, and there's no indication it's going to get better. But I also wanted to give you a heads up that I may, as soon as I can get my act together and be of use as opposed to somebody who's more of a burden, I want to go to St. Louis to be with Susan. So I might not be here again next week. I don't know. I just don't know. Okay? Everything's sort of up in the air. And then just one more thing, and we'll take a break. And this, again, normally would be so huge. It's just piling on. But my cat, Dylan, disappeared Thursday night. And so I'm mourning him, too. Although, granted, that doesn't rise to anything compared, obviously, to Eric. But it's just, you know how when it rains, it pours? I'm having one of those weeks, months. So, that's it. That's the full story. You know, I consider you guys family in a way too. So I was really grateful to Susan for giving me the go-ahead to just sort of explain where we all were. Okay? Not a good time in my family. And that's it. Okay, enough. Psst, enough. Psst. I got so much to talk about. I do. So let's get a break out of the way and get down to it.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
BurghBargains.com is your best bet for great deals in the Burgh. Log on today for exclusive bargains from your favorite retailers and restaurants like TJ Maxx, Marshall's, Applebee's, and Majorca, plus discounts on gift cards to Wildwood Highlands. BurghBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BurghBargains.com.
I didn't know about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease until I took the wheel and lent my support to Drive for COPD. Help Americans take action against this leading cause of death by logging on to driveforcopd.org to learn more. I'm Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and I drive for COPD.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
So, Marge writes, "You look great." Marge, thank you very much. I don't know about that. She says, "Oh my God, at first glance I gasped, but after seeing and hearing you, I'm relieved you're okay. And now all I can think of is my mother saying, 'Do you have clean underpants on? What if you were ever in an accident?'" That is, you know what? That's true. I was sort of mortified when they started cutting through my clothes because I had, and I don't normally, but because of 4802 and wanting to sort of appear as sleek as I could, I'd put on one of those Spanx things on top, and it went sort of down to, and you know, so when they're cutting essentially girdles off you, it's a bit embarrassing. So, okay. I saw that. I just have to, in case you missed this in the paper yesterday, I thought this was so funny. And funny is good. Funny is good. So this is just a little bit that John Oliver, do you know John Oliver? He is a correspondent. Is he still a correspondent on The Daily Show?
The British guy.
The British guy. He has his own show now. I'm not so sure that still appears, but that's how maybe most of us first ever saw him. He's a bespectacled, nerdy sort of looking Brit. And he now has his own show on HBO called Last Week Tonight, which I have not seen, but I have to, because all of these spin-offs from The Daily Show, like the Colbert Report and all this other, have been really good. I mean, these guys are funny. So this is a quote from him on the show, and I just think this is brilliant. And maybe it would take a Brit who's, not an American to come up with this observation. But here it is. He's talking about America. And he says, I think the best analogy for where we are right now is that America is Elvis Presley. The most beautiful, talented, rebellious nation in the history of Earth. And now, America, you're in your Vegas years. That's absolutely true. It's so funny. He says, you've squeezed yourself into a white jumpsuit. You're wheezing your way through Love Me Tender. And you might be about to pass away bloated on the toilet. But you're still the king. Is that not dead on?
So true.
Just dead on. Yeah, we are Elvis, but it's the bloated Elvis about to pass out on the toilet, but we're still the king. I love it. I love it. Hard to beat that. Okay. Getting serious for a moment. There was a piece that I want to share with you in the, New York Times. While I was indisposed, our wonderful Supreme Court came down with another winner, another 5-4. And this is the one about prayers in government. And the New York Times editorialized it as calling it a lamentable ruling. And if you didn't read any of what the justices wrote, it was the conservative majority. It was, by the way, all Catholics. What was funny about this vote? You know how it often you say it's like you saw for the first time that on a religion case, but it is true, the conservatives on the court are all Catholic. The liberals on the court are almost all Jews. The only Catholic, there's no Protestants on the court right now, which is just amazing. But Sotomayor is Catholic, and she is the one that doesn't fit. But all the Jewish justices were in the minority, and all the Catholics but Sotomayor were in the lamentable majority. But that tells you something, too. None of these guys who decided that it was no big deal to start a town hall meeting with a prayer that is specifically Christian, which this town in New York did, every meeting, saying things before the before their meeting started, and we all stand, bow your head, and then saying things like, we acknowledge the saving sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. Well, let me tell, and someone had brought suit saying, hey, this is a government meeting, and there are people here who don't acknowledge the saving sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. I'm sorry, they're not Christian. And so having a prayer that essentially, from the outset, excludes a bunch of people in the room, especially if, and what Sotomayor pointed out in her dissent, is in a town, like in a small form of government like this, at the town hall meeting, at the school board meeting, if you, right at the outset with a prayer, sort of let some people know that they're not in the crowd, they're not in, that it puts them at a true disadvantage. In other words, you always hear, well, they're free to leave while the prayer's going on, or you're free to not take part. But see, behaviors like that are noticed. And if you're going as a citizen to maybe appeal something to your city board or town supervisors, and you don't do their prayer with them, are you at a disadvantage? So there's something very coercive about it and very divisive about it. But you have to be an empathetic person to get it. And so Justice Kagan said we need to make sure the prayers that our citizens hear are prayers that include rather than divide. So if you're going to do a prayer, and I'm always so taken by Christians who are in a position to do a prayer, and it's a mixed gathering where where they have to be aware that not everyone in the room is Christian. I am always so grateful, truly grateful, when they do their prayer, their wonderful prayer, but they speak of, God or the Lord, but they don't define that entity down in an exclusionary way, such as saying we acknowledge the saving sacrifice of Jesus Christ, because there's not a Jew in the world who does. There's not a Muslim who does. There's not an atheist who does. There's not a Buddhist who does. There's not and on and on and on. That is the credo of a specific religion. And last time I looked, our Constitution said that the government, should not in any way act as if there's one religion is better than another, to establish a, primary religion. And this court now has essentially done that and said Christians win. So that was sort of off the beat a little bit, because what I really wanted to tell you was somebody did some real grunt work. And I forget what university did this, and maybe if I quickly look, I will find it. But they conducted, this is at Washington University in St. Louis, a bunch of legal scholars got together, and they looked at Supreme Court cases from 1953, yiko, to 2011, okay? And they pulled out all of the cases that were free speech cases, First Amendment free speech cases. And then they noted how each justice found, whether for or again, and also what that specific case was about, if the speech in question could be labeled as right-wing or left-wing. Okay, so burning the flag, is that constitutional? Would have been a left-wing freedom of speech case. Can the KKK, march through a Jewish neighborhood? Would have been a right-wing case, because that's, right speech, left speech, whatever. Anyway, it is mind-blowing what the data showed. They pulled out the justices that we are most familiar with, and it's mind-blowing because, let's take Justice Scalia, for instance. He voted when it came to a free speech case, and the speaker, that which was being said could arguably be called to the right on the political spectrum. Justice Scalia voted to uphold the free speech rights of that conservative speech. And all you had to do for Scalia is change the content of the speech, and he, in an extraordinary number of times, decided that speech was not allowed under the Constitution. So, Scalia, if you look at the history of every case he ever heard, which is a free speech First Amendment case, he voted to uphold the free speech rights of conservative speakers at more than triple the rate of liberal speakers. And you know what? That shows such a bias and such a prejudice, such a non-judicial and constitutional way of viewing it. The thing about the First Amendment and freedom of speech that is so damn hard is we all always think that the speech we agree with is fine and dandy. It's the speech we find abhorrent where the First Amendment kicks in. It's easy to say, somebody who's talking like you would self-talk, say, yeah, that person has every right to say that. But then when somebody is saying stuff that it makes your skin crawl, to be able to say, to overcome your nausea, and to say, well, I absolutely find this speech despicable, disgusting, blah, 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 but our First Amendment allows it. Scalia can't do it. He can't do it. And guess who else can't do it? Clarence Thomas, the worst of the lot. Alito, unbelievable. Okay, take a caller. Hello.
Lynn, I was feeling sorry for myself. I was on my back with a cold all weekend, and then I saw you.
Yeah.
So how does this free speech then hold up against the NBA blocking that man? What was Sterling?
That's not a First Amendment issue.
It's not
a First Amendment issue because the First Amendment only has to do with government infringing upon a person's right to say whatever they want to say. In private, in corporations, in place of work, your free speech rights are limited by whatever your employer says they are. And that stands all the time. So people misunderstand the First Amendment in that regard. He was sanctioned by his colleagues in a very private and exclusive club called NBA Owners.
Okay, well,
there's no First Amendment
the other
issue.
thing I'd like to check into is whether the NBA is a non-profit organization.
It probably is, huh?
Because if it is, that may also have a impact on. Okay, I understand your point. I just, and I'm in no way, shape, or form in favor of him saying what he said. You know, his views. I don't support his views, but I also don't support the fact that when he expresses them, that he can be. I just.
Well, you see, it's a private It's essentially it's a workplace thing where you can't go up to the boss and say F you SOB blah blah blah, and then when he fires you, say my First Amendment rights were violated. Oh no, they weren't, because
but here's the thing. So then you say, well, I'm taking you to court, and I'm going to sue you for firing me for saying that to you. And then the judiciary says, well, you were rightly fired because you can't talk to your boss that way, and it's a private organization. That means the government is supporting you being discriminated against for what you said.
Well, no. I mean, I think, look, I'm no attorney, but I think, the law is, because I do have an affiliation with the ACLU, I do understand that it has to do with government suppression of certain speech. It does not have to do with a private entity.
See, but that doesn't seem right. The reason I can't just say, yeah, I understand that and I agree with it, which makes sense. It does make sense to me. It is the fact that it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem proper that.
Well,
and that is in fact why is it not that the church that we just had, there was just that case where with the Obamacare and the church saying, well, it's however that played out.
These issues are very.
I may muddy the water even more for myself there. And I can't, as far as the Christian speech goes and all that, being an atheist, where does that leave me with? That puts me even farther out on the.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, feel better.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah. Well, this is mind-blowing, and also the other takeaway from this study, in this free speech study, and how justices, and I got to tell you, it's just here in black and white. It's the conservative justices that have this double standard on free speech cases. If you look at the liberal justices, they understand the First Amendment. So you don't get this huge difference in how they would look at a speech case. They don't filter it through their own politics and their own biases. And it's a fascinating thing to look at. So just taking Justice Alito. I always say justice in front of these guys' names with some scorn because I don't think that they're doing their job, and this shows it. Justice Alito, in the cases he has heard, has been on for, hey, we got a First Amendment, let the guy speak. When it's a conservative speaker, he says let him speak over like 56% of the time. If the speaker is engaging in liberal speech, Alito only acknowledges the existence of the First Amendment 5% of the time. And I told you before, Scalia, it's a threefold difference. Clarence Thomas, if a speaker is conservative, he sees their absolute right to speak 70% of the time. If the speaker is a liberal, he only sees their right to speak 22% of the time. Now, they say that because they only looked at cases up to 2011, that John Roberts and Alito really didn't have enough opinions but the opinions they had, I'm telling you, that's what it looks like. John Roberts First Amendment free speech cases. 65% of the time, if the speaker's conservative, Roberts says, yeah, all right, you let that guy speak. We got a First Amendment. And if the speaker's liberal, Roberts forgets there's a First Amendment and only finds the liberal speech allowable about 17% of the time. So this is not how this is supposed to work. And since the offenders are the conservative justices, it shows what a sorry state this Roberts court is in. Headline on this piece: for justices, free speech often means speech I agree with. And here's where they fudge. It should say for conservative justices, free speech often means speech I agree with. And that ain't the idea at all. We're taking a break, and we'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to see Pittsburgh play Baltimore at PNC Park Tuesday, May 20th. The CP Haps app brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
So anyway, one of the things with this shoulder and everything, I can't do anything. And I'm looking at my front yard, and it's a disaster area. What usually is a nice-looking garden is a disaster area. The winter didn't help either. And I'm thinking, I'm never going to be able to I can't do it. So, I had this brilliant thought yesterday. Call the urban gardener. Remember, I've told you about this place. Call the urban gardener. This is that wonderful nursery right over there on the near North Shore. This is the North Shore on Brighton Road. And they've got all the stuff you could ever want, but the thing I want them for is they also will come to your house and do the dirty work. They will figure out how to make this mess of a garden, I know I have now, into a beautiful garden again, so that they do offer design consultation and also garden maintenance, and that's what I'm going to be begging them for. This garden spot on the north side, 1901 Brighton Road. The spring is finally here, and those of us who have green thumbs or have, whatever, the ambition to have a green thumb, can't have a better resource in the city, okay? So please, whether you're looking for shrubs or perennials or vines or trees or tchotchkes for the garden, they have wondrous stuff. 1901 Brighton Road. They got a fantastic website, so just check them out at urbangardenerpgh.com, okay? And remember, if you go there and you say, Lynn Cullen, 5% off, baby. Mm-hmm.
While cutting molding with a 12-inch dual compound miter saw, while holding a newborn baby in your arms, when face-to-face with a congregation of alligators, with the ball in your hands and the entire freaking season on the line.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting, so why would you do it while driving? NASCAR driver Casey Kane here, asking you to please stop the text, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Get the message at stoptextstopwrecks.org.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay. Now what? Oh, geez. In the time remaining, dare I do this? I have, I just got my ability to sort of focus on news back about 4 days ago. I have to admit I couldn't. It's amazing how when you're really in pain and really can't read, You can't read, you can't focus, you can't do anything, you just lie around like a big piece of meat. But one thing I couldn't help but notice is, and I've got a pile, and maybe it's too much to talk about right now, so I'm not going to, but when I'm a little more organized, I am. I'll give you some headlines. Feds failed to inspect high-risk gas and oil wells. Here's another headline. Fracking well leak spills 1,600 gallons of oil drilling lubricant into Ohio River. Here's another one. Oil train wreck in Virginia brings demands for more regulation. Here's another one. EPA weighs fracking disclosure rules. And I know I have more. And on and on. And you start seeing, we're in the money, Range Resources, drilling is just the beginning. I find that the most ominous little tagline in advertising ever. Yeah, it's only the beginning, and we got money and all this stuff, and people have jobs, and that is wonderful, but we raced right into this without due diligence about environmental safety. Oh, another interesting vote breakdown I wanted to share with you. I don't know if I'm the only one who noticed this. I haven't seen it mentioned in the paper or anything. But another amazing vote. This one, Allegheny County Council, voting, I think it was 8-5 or 9-5, to allow fracking in Deer Lakes Park, the Sylvan area. That vote did not break down along the kinds. It was mind-boggling, but I'll tell you what, all the people who voted for it, no matter if they were Republicans or Democrats, had penises. That's all I want to say. And they were white-skinned. White-skinned men, white males, were all of the, go ahead, drill, baby, drill. Democrats, drill, baby, drill. All of the people who voted against it, Republican or Democrat, had vaginas. Except one. There was one. And that was a guy with a penis, but he's black. And I looked at that and thought, I wonder if that's coincidence or what that means. When it came to safeguarding this Sylvan public park, all the white guys said, F it. And all the women and the one black man said, wait a minute here. I think you would be hard-pressed to find another vote breakdown like that. I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. But just like I said, all the Jews in the court over here, all the Catholics over here, and now we've got all the women here, women and minorities, and all white males over here. If you think, and this is where affirmative action still makes sense, if you think that the life experience and just sort of the perception of reality is the same for men and for women, you're wrong. Is the same for whites and blacks? You're wrong. Is the same for Christians and Jews or Muslims? You're wrong. Or atheists? You're wrong. People come to decisions based, one would hope, on a lot going on in their brains, but also based on their life experience. Women by nature are more giving, caretaking, and that all the women, Democrat and Republican, were leery of doing this in this park, even for the money. I think that does say something. I don't. Just pointing it out because I noted it. All right. And... oh, I got to talk about this tomorrow when I have more time. Did you all see, and if you didn't, will you look it up? My friend Mackenzie Carpenter had the most hysterical Saturday diary piece. And it was the Saturday I was hospitalized. It was right after, the day after I had my little spill. And so I didn't see it. And somebody alerted me to it just days ago. And I looked it up. And that has to be, it has to do with her going to Colorado and being at a friend's 60th birthday celebration. And anyway, ending up indulging in some of this legal pot. And Mackenzie is not a pothead. Mackenzie's as far from a pothead as you can be. But she ingested some, as did her friend. And the resulting story is unbelievable. Let's just say that Mackenzie and we're going to get together and compare ambulance rides.
Oh my God.
She ended up in the ER.
What?
Not so much, she herself I don't think would have, but the friend she was with, paramedics were called. And then the paramedics took one look at Mackenzie and said, you come too. And so I want to talk about this because, I am a pothead. And I don't want this experiment in legalization to go awry. And it will if they don't get a handle on this edible crap. Because that's what did in Mackenzie and her friend, and that's what's doing in apparently a lot of other people. You have no idea how much you're ingesting. You have no idea how high you are because it's going through it's not an immediate thing. It's going through your digestive system, so it blindsides you maybe a half hour, 45 minutes later when it finally gets into your bloodstream. And it's dangerous. And because they're allowed to make this stuff to look like candy, it's dangerous. Because I can see with a kid might see it and they go, whoa, gummy bears, and throw 10, 12 down their throats, and have it could kill somebody. I think a little person this is nuts. So they did not think this out very clearly. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more, but we'll save again that for tomorrow. I got so much here for tomorrow. Should do a 2-hour show. I don't know. So that's it. That's where I was. That's where I am. I know I'm calling it quits about a minute early, but everything takes me 2 to 3 times as long to do. And I need a head start to get all this together and get back to my car before I get a parking ticket. And my son, my chauffeur, I know is itching to get going. So tomorrow, the show, as I said, without Susan, please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. Can't hurt. Have a good day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.